Y'all, if you love seeds like I do, garden seeds, flower seeds, vegetable seeds, the series is for you. So I have a hot mess of seeds everywhere, and I've got to get them organized before I can really start planning, start deciding what's going where, what I'm planting, what I'm winter sowing before it's too late, right? We're getting so close to it being too late to winter sow here. Um, I'm thinking I'll divide this task and this video that I'm hoping you'll come along with me for into 3 parts. So I've got a flower bin, I've got cold weather slash herb bin, and then I've got my warm weather stuff, which includes a lot of different things. These are all tomatoes, I think, or maybe they're peppers, I don't know. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, melons, beans, just a variety of different things. So my plan is to do this. I have to file away all the seeds that I have been finding and or ordered a couple months ago, a month ago. I'm trying not to order any, that's a deal with me. I'm not going to order any more seeds until I get this project done. I've got to get them organized. I've got to get them filed away so that I can find what I need when I need it, and so that I know what I have, instead of me thinking, oh, I don't have this particular tomato and I order another one. So we're just going to go bin by bin. Once I get this project done, I think what I will do is just share each collection with you. So I'm not going to film the part where I go through the seeds, because I'm literally just going to pick up a seed packet. This is cold weather. I'm going to throw it in the cold weather. This is warm weather. I'm going to throw it in the warm weather. And then once I get done going through the new seeds, the found seeds, I'm going to share each bin with you. I'll probably just, like I said, do one video for flowers, one for cool weather and herbs, and then one for warm weather stuff. It's a big job, I know. I know. In this video, we're going to focus on flowers and ornamental garden items that we are going to grow from seed. So I think I've got myself set up here. I have this bin that will be items I want to just sow in a bed down by my mailbox. I want it just to be a flower type situation. I've got carrot seeds that I want to flower there as well. Some zinnia, and then a couple different mixes. And I'm not a fan of mixes to begin with, and I thought I'm just going to let that area be hands-free. I'm just going to let it self-seed itself, and I've kind of got it to that point now, but that's a separate video. We'll work on that one day. I've got my phone here so I can look up what needs code certification, what doesn't, if I have a question. And I did kind of do something similar a couple years back, where I had everything sort of organized. I had my cold weather stuff, my warm weather stuff separated in each container. And then over the last 2+ years, it has become a mess again. So today's video, we're going to go through these bins. We are going to try to, I think first step before we do anything is to make some piles of seeds. I don't have to organize them at this point. I'm just going to make a native or a frost tolerant or needs code certification pile, which often includes perennials. And then this one, warm weather stuff like annuals, stuff that dies with cold, can't tolerate frost. So that is where I'm going to start, and then I will come back and we will look at some of these seeds. Here is a better look at, and I just added to this list, can't take frost. I also added unlikely to the might self-seed. I think this is going to help me kind of separate the seeds. And then over here we've got the ones that are frost tolerant, needs code certification, perennial or native, and is frost tolerant. And I can see straight away, you can see where the mix-up is happening and why I cannot find my seeds. So I've got calendula over here and I've got calendula over here, right? Well, calendula is cold tolerant. And for me, sometimes it even blooms in December and January. So these guys are going to go into this side. I'm just going to put them back here. We're going to sort them later. I just want to focus on getting into the right category at this point. And then there's going to be some that I have to look up, like hollyhocks. Those do self-seed. I don't really know off the top of my head if they would benefit from code certification. I'm thinking maybe, because for me in this location, I would plant these in the fall and they would come back in the spring and then grow and flower that year. So this is a maybe that I have to look up. I really need to look that one up. Hardy hibiscus seeds. Did look this up a few minutes ago. I was on Epic Gardening's website. According to their site, it does require code certification, but according to a lot of other sites, it does not. It just needs a scarification where you nick or rough up the seed coating. So I'm going to put this one in the I don't know pile. I'm afraid we're going to end up with a really big I don't know pile, the way things are going. Now, Sweet Alyssum, that is a cold weather flower for me. I actually have some blooming out there right now and still alive. So we'll put those over there. And so this is what I'm going to be doing, guys. I'm going to be picking up a seed. I'm going to be making a choice and trying to find a home, a category for it. Zinnia does not need code certification. It is a warm weather flower. It will die in the cold. So I know that goes over in the heat tolerant pile. This Chinese aster, I'm going to have to look that one up. I know it takes a really, really long time to germinate. Camellia does need code certification. Put that over there. I meant to do that by now, but I didn't. Another zinnia, we know where that goes. I know Scabiosa takes a really long time. I'm going to have to look this one up. I don't think it needs code certification, but I'll look it up. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and then we'll come back once I got everything into its proper category, and then we're going to organize the seeds. So I'm finding some tricky seeds, like petunia. Okay, so petunia for me actually can take some cold here. It will die with a hard frost, but it can take a little light frost, and it does germinate as volunteers in my garden in the same season, not the next year though. I can't recall ever having a volunteer petunia the following year. Now I've had that with other annuals like coleus, and those are definitely a summer plant. Yeah, so for petunia, I don't know. It's a tricky one because I added a new listing here, fall planted annual, and that does not fit the bill there. This cannot take a hard frost, so I'm going to make that a new listing as well. So we're going to move this over to warm weather. These do take a really long time to get to full size, so yeah, that's a tricky one. Petunias are tricky, but I think it needs to go into my warm weather bin. Nasturtium, they do not need code certification. They do need scarification, though. You need to nick it, and they definitely need warm weather, but they hate hot weather here. So mine are really happy like September, October, the early part of summer and late spring, but they will die. They will die with a frost. So I guess this needs to go into warm weather. Okay, so another tricky seed, cosmos. They do self-seed here pretty readily, especially the orange one that I really like. But they do die with a hard frost, and I did add that to my list, hard frost. It's definitely a warm weather annual. Might self-seed, but unlikely. But it does self-seed here for me. So this is a tricky one. It does not need code certification. I think I will put it in warm weather. We'll just consider zinnia and cosmo in the same category. So you can see how this is getting tricky, right? It really is. There are a lot of seeds that are going to be a little bit of a question for me. So I need to look some of these up, and that's why I didn't want to film the whole experience of going through these seeds. But we will look at the categories because I think that part will be fun when I get all of these divided up. Of course, your coneflowers are requiring code certification. They can be planted in the fall. They're perennial, so they fit into the cold listing quite well. All right, another tricky one, status. And this one in particular, this variety is perennial for me here in 7B/8. And so this one has me stumped because it does not require code certification. It is also considered a cool weather flower, and it doesn't like the super high humid heat here in the summer. So it's in that maybe pile, right? I'm having a hard time. I think I will put it over into the cool weather flowers, even though it doesn't meet all of the criteria. I really feel like it's a cool weather flower. So, yep, I guess I'll do that. So for the hollyhocks, I think I'm going to put those actually with the cold weather items as well, because they can benefit from cold stratification. In my location, you can plant them in the fall. They do self-seed pretty readily here. They're a biennial, and they will usually last 2 years or so. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do with the hollyhock. Even though in your mind you think, oh, that is definitely a summer flower, and it is flowering in the summer, but its life structure, I guess we need to look at that more than just when it flowers. And since it does hang around for quite a while during the winter, as a plant underground, with active live roots, I guess I need to consider this over into the cool weather items. And I feel like my categories are getting longer. My piece of paper is too small now. I was going to say something about the hollyhocks, in that I have been able to germinate hollyhocks just planting them in the spring, late spring, in the soil without cold stratification. But evidently they could do better and germinate better if they do have a period of cold. So we're just going to go ahead, we're going to put them over into the cool weather items, and I think they will be okay. And it is true that the roots are sensitive. They grow like this really massive taproot, and I have tried to relocate hollyhocks before that I had grown into containers. They do not like transplanting, so keep that in mind. You could just start them in your spring garden, or you could start some small seedlings and get them transferred before the roots get really knotty and thick and strong, which will work fine. I've winter sown these before, and I probably will winter sow some hollyhocks since I didn't plant any in the fall, which would have been probably my best option, but we can definitely winter sow these. And I think I'll add a category onto the cool weather stuff that states works great for winter sowing, and that might help me kind of filter through these seeds real quick. So I added on the winter sow, ideal for winter sowing category here to our list. And I was going to talk about Sweet William. I love, love, love Sweet William. It is so beautiful. It is a biennial in that it will need 2 seasons. And so if I start these now, they are ideal for cold stratification. They do need cold stratification. I should have planted them in the fall, so I know easily which category they should go into. But I may do an experiment and do some of these in a winter sowing milk jug and see if we can possibly get them to flower this summer, which would be awesome. Otherwise, if I planted these in a garden, say, mid-April to May, they would do all of their growing this year in the summer and develop their roots, develop some foliage, look really pretty as just a plant. And then the next summer is when they would flower and look so pretty. But some flower seeds, especially like the hollyhocks, you can trick them with the winter sowing and they will flower that summer if they got some growth onto them during that winter sowing phase. And they're pretty good, nice size seedlings when you put them out in the garden. So I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about maybe we winter sow a jug of Sweet William. Definitely know which pile to put this in. Yes, I'm still in my PJs because it's the next morning and I didn't get to do the sorting last night. So we're doing it alone in a nice quiet house today. Yeah. So this guy looks like I would seed it March through May indoors, 8 weeks before last frost. So definitely doesn't like frost. I'm going to say this is a warm weather annual, and I don't even need to look it up. I'm just going to throw it over here into the warm weather pile. Another one that is really tricky for me is the straw flower. So they do incredibly well winter sowing. I've done that a few times. They are slightly light frost tolerant. They can take a light frost in the fall here and there, but they can't take a hard frost. They're not perennial for me. I don't plant them in the fall. So only one category so far is working over here. And then it is considered warm weather annual, dies with a hard frost. Okay. Might self-seed, no guarantee. Okay, so that's one that's off on this category list because straw flower actually does self-seed for me pretty well. I have them come up every year. I really haven't planted any in several years, although I might start a new round in winter sowing this year. So this guy, I think he hits more of the categories for warm weather annual. He only checks off maybe one over here. So I guess I got my answer. This does take a long time for germination, and it does really well in the winter sowing. So I would recommend that. But for now, and I guess from here on out, I'm going to consider straw flower into my warm category. Scabiosa, another super tricky one, guys. So it requires a very short cold stratification period, about 2 weeks. That's all it needs. And I consider it a warm weather annual. I have never had it self-seed in my garden. I think it would do fine as a later planted winter sowing seed. It does die in the hard frost. So I think I'm going to put this into warm weather because I know I have actually started these without cold stratifying. And it was just a recommended short time period of 2 weeks to cold stratify. That was on Baker Creek's website and a couple others that I just Googled. And I know I've started these directly in my window when I started tomatoes before. So, and it's about the same time period, 6 to 8 weeks before last frost, similar to growing a tomato. I am going to, it is interesting though that it says direct sow in early spring or fall. But like I said, I've never had them self-seed. I've never had them come back from root in my garden. I consider them an annual. So for now, until I know better or differently, they're going into warm weather annual. We are not making very fast progress because I keep picking up these seeds that are very tricky. So 4 o'clock seeds. These are the seeds, not the bare roots, which you can also buy those. For me, in my zone, is a perennial and a pain in the butt. And I think it could actually become a nuisance. I'm on the verge of saying I regret planting these. So, yes, they do not require cold stratification. They do not. They do die with a hard frost. They do self-seed readily here, and they come back from the roots. It's a perennial, so it's a perennial. Doesn't need cold stratification. Not frost tolerant. This is a very, very difficult plant for me to categorize. So it is a perennial. Maybe I should have some hard absolute. Like if it's a perennial, it has to go over into this pile. But this is definitely what I would think of in my mind as a warm weather flower. It only flowers in summer. This is very, very tricky. So I'm not sure where to put this guy. Maybe I'll just put him in the middle and think about it while I'm going through some more seeds. And the beautiful cups and saucers or cathedral bells. I've grown this a couple times before. It is stunning. It is gorgeous. Very vigorous, huge vine. It is perennial and 9 and above, I believe. Yes, wow. It can even reach 70 feet. So this definitely needs to be planted 2 weeks after your last frost date. So it is not tolerant of any kind of cold or frost. So I know that I can easily put this into my warm weather flower seeds. I do think I will go ahead and try a couple seeds in some winter sowing because this takes a really long time and I want to get it in the garden as soon as my last frost has passed. So we know where to put these guys. How stunning, how beautiful. Marigolds, a little tricky because they do readily self-seed here. They do not come back from roots. It's just self-seeding. They can take a little bit of cold, but they can't take a frost. So I'm just going to put them into warm weather. I feel like that's the best place for marigolds. A little bit tricky, but I know that you plant it a couple weeks after your last frost. It really needs warm, dry, hot temperatures. However, it does self-seed for me a lot. Like I have not had to plant this in many years. So considering all of that, I'm going to put it in warm weather because that is exactly what I consider this guy to be, a warm weather flower plant. Similar to marigolds, sunflowers will self-seed sometimes in my garden, often. It depends on the variety, really, but I consider it a warm weather annual, and it does not need code certification, so I'm going to put that with the warm weather items. It's about 36 hours or so later, and I am finally getting to the bottom of my containers. I have found things that didn't belong, like some seeds that I have saved here and there. Yeah, so what I did all day yesterday after I recorded my last little clip, I had other stuff to do than just play with my seeds all day. So when I'd come in the kitchen, I'd pick up a pack, I'd look at it, I'd make a decision, and then I would put it in the bin in the other room. But this morning I had a chunk of time, so I got a big stash here, put into, this is cool weather. I've got warm weather. I'm going to add those to the bins in the other room here in a minute. But all I have to do is push myself to get through this small pile. If I could just do this, I would be so proud of myself, because I have really procrastinated and not wanting to do this project for a really long time. And you can see why. Guys, it's been exactly 1 week since I started the flower seed ordeal. I'm at the very bottom of these seeds now. I think I can push myself to get done, and then at least I will know what I have and what I don't, and what I can start and what I want to wait on. It is the next morning, and finally I have these seeds categorized either cool weather, warm weather. Now my cool weather, warm weather interpretation might be different than your growing zone, because I have perennials that some people might not be able to keep as a perennial in their garden. For example, say Dusty Miller, that usually hangs on here, and I have some out front that's been there for 3 or 4 years. That may not be a perennial in every growing zone. For me, I consider it a cool weather flower because it likes a little cooler temperatures than, say, the heat of summer here. So it is going to vary based on your location, your perennial growing zone, and so forth. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start with the cool weather. I'm going to put them all out on the table, see what we have, and then we're going to use our rubber bands, gather them into their individual flower seed categories. All right, guys, I did it. The cool weather flowers are organized. What do you think? I'm thinking about buying some index cards and then making an index card for each category. Say pansy, I'll put some important information on there for that whole category, because some, you know, even though these are all cool weather flowers, some have different germination needs, some have different growing needs. So I think it would be cool to have a little more information just right there with my seeds, so I don't have to go Google, go through my seed catalogs, or look anything up. You can see some categories have a bigger stack of seeds, like the poppies here. That's because I guess I really like poppies. I've got a lot of calendula seeds back in there. I do love calendula as well. Yeah, so as I'm putting these away, I'm going to purge a little bit, maybe condense a little bit. There's some seeds, like, I know not everyone will agree with me on this. I've had this one seed packet for probably 5 years of the foxglove. I've been so nervous to plant it because it is so toxic. Larkspur is another one I don't think I'm going to keep anymore. I do have some delphinium in here somewhere. I saw a package of it, and I'm thinking, do I even want to have that in my garden, especially my future garden? I've kind of got my eye towards the future now. And so with that said, for this year's winter sowing, I may not start a lot of perennials, especially if they take a long time to get set up, or they are a biannual and need 2 years before they flower. Yeah, I'm really thinking about that, guys. So with that said, I don't think you guys want to go through every single seed packet or category with me. Maybe a future video if we get snowed in for a week. But I think what I'll do is just give you a quick overview, just like I am right now, And if you see any particular seed that you have a question about, just put it in the comment below. I do want to show you this columbine. Look at that. Isn't that so cute? Look at the foliage. I do think I might start that one. I'm considering starting that one. I love alyssum. I've got a lot of alyssum here too. And this is a dwarf. I really want to grow that one in my green stock. So just have a peek. I did mix my California poppies and my regular other poppies together. I do want to start these bachelor buttons too. I could have planted these early fall, but I didn't get around to it. So I will do a round of those. Those are so pretty, and they will sometimes usually self-seed. Now, you'll notice when we get to warm weather that, make sure that's in focus. Yeah, when we get to warm weather, I've got warm weather verbena. I've got the perennial cool weather verbena. Now, I love snapdragons as well. I've got a ton of different snapdragon packets there. Some different rose seeds. Did you know you could grow roses from seeds? I've actually grown this one before. I still have them in my garden. They're gorgeous. Very delicate. So let's just have a look. And then I'll move on to the warm weather. I'll have to put all these away as I go. Use some rubber bands. Love zeborina. That's one of my favorite flowers. And I love spider flower. I've not grown the purple yet. I've only grown the mix, and it comes back every year on its own. So I haven't had to start seeds in a very long time. Coreopsis, love-hate relationship there. Agastache, hummingbird mint, love those two. Let's see what the one underneath is. Oh, I haven't grown that one yet, but I need to. Yes, I really need to. Now this might be a mistake on my part. This is one of those tricky ones. The honeywort here, that technically could be over in warm weather, and I think I have a couple packs over in warm weather. I'm still on the fence. It does prefer a cooler growing temperature, but it is frost tender. Yeah. So that was kind of a tricky one for me, but when I've tried to grow it in the summer, it just dies from the heat. But it is a beautiful, gorgeous plant. And I thought it was actually perennial, but maybe that's why I put it over here. It was a long effort to get all of these organized, guys. And I was like, let's see. It's quick to mature. Okay. It sounds like it does not like the frost. Oh, these are pretty old seeds, right? 2021. Oh my goodness. But I love the art packs. Have you ever ordered from Hudson Valley Seed? I absolutely love the art packs. They're so pretty. But then you don't want to throw them away because they're so pretty. Yeah, I'm going to have to double check on the honeywort here. It is a gorgeous plant though. I thought it was perennial for Zone 7, but maybe I am wrong. I'll put it here on the screen if I am. Absolutely also love Maltese Cross. That is one I recommend growing. Bells of Ireland requires really long stratification. It's very finicky. I've only got it to germinate and grow once, and then as soon as it got hot, late spring, it was gone. Okay. So you might say things, you might think, oh, you should have put that in your herb, like the soapwort. No, because it is toxic. I'm not going to keep it there. I've got some ornamental oregano way over on the corner over there. Also, I keep that with my ornamentals because it's toxic. It's beautiful. It's so fun to grow, but it is toxic. So you're going to see aster again over in warm weather. This actually is a cool weather aster. Yeah, so even though they might have the same name, it's not necessarily the same classification based on how and how it grows and all that. You wouldn't think blanket flower would belong over here, but because it's a perennial down to a really low growing zone, I decided to keep it with my cool weather plants. But it does take dry soil, it takes the heat. If you go down to North Carolina at the beaches, you will see blanket flower everywhere, just growing in the sand, perfectly happy. All right, well, I hope I gave you guys a good look. And if you have the same problem I have with morning glories, you may want to consider this annual dwarf morning glory type plant that is so stunning and gorgeous to grow, and it's not trailing, it's not a vine, it's not going to take over like regular morning glory, which honestly, that's in my top 3 plants I will never grow again, morning glory. Alrighty guys, so you might think, oh, dianthus, yes, it's also cool weather. And you know what, why do I have the spider flower in the cool weather? I have no idea. That might need to get moved. It's not perennial. It will die with frost. It does readily self-seed, but I think I need to take that category out because that might be misplacing some of these seeds in the wrong cool weather versus warm weather categories. Now, sorry about that. I dropped my phone. Okay, well, we're gonna get these put away. I'm gonna think about a couple of these and decide, do they need to go somewhere else? And then I'll put all these away. We'll get out the warm weather seeds. Hey y'all, just a side note. So when I was talking about toxic plants earlier, I had mentioned larkspur and verbascum. I think I meant to say delphinium. Delphinium and larkspur are very closely related, not exactly the same plant, but very close, and they're both toxic. Evidently, I'm doing a little online research right now. This verbascum is okay. So I'm going to keep it. And now, whoopsie, for the warm weather seeds. Another basket, completely nicely neatified. Is that a word, neatified? I don't know, but I can find stuff now. It's kind of organized. It's not alphabetical or anything like that, but each category is grouped together with a band-aid if I have more than one seed pack for that particular flower. Now on to the warm weather. Look at this. This is so interesting. With the cool weather, I had the whole table covered with different varieties. With warm weather, it appears that I buy repeats of the same flowers, just different variations. So for example, the zinnias, I've got 2 big stacks. Sunflowers, I've got 2 big stacks. I've got a big stack of nasturtiums, got a big stack of Chinese asters, marigolds, nice little stack, pincushion or scabiosa, a few different varieties. One of my favorite flowers, Tithonia or Mexican sunflower. I got a nice selection of gomphrena, and I did move the spider flower over to the warm weather flowers. So lots and lots of favorites here. They're annuals, and I don't think there are any perennials in warm weather, which that really wouldn't make sense, right? Now, if I was a zone 9, 10, 11, there are some plants in here that are perennial for those growing zones, but not for 8 or 7, which is where I'm located. Yeah, so these are all annuals for me. Even some things you would think, oh, well, that belongs over in the cool weather, but there's actually some Rudbeckias that are annual, and this is one of them, and I am going to grow it because I've been wanting to see this plant. I bought the seeds last year. It is so pretty. Really excited to try this, and we're going to winter sow it. Maybe have to wait just a wee bit. So these items I would winter sow after I winter sow all of my cold weather items. And so, for example, the Tithonia, you can winter sow that. But for me in my location, I will wait till, say, March. Yeah. When we're in that warm up phase, not when we're still in the really cold, we might get snow, might be cold type of weather. Zinnias, you can definitely winter sow that. But at this point, these are what I would call more spring sow in a milk jug type seeds. You can do sunflowers. They work really well. You could just let the seeds sit until the time is right, and then they'll kind of know when to germinate. But for me, I just like to start with all of my cold weather stuff first. Items that need co-stratification, a period of moist and cold and wet, changing soil. But yeah, a lot of these you can direct sow and they will do phenomenal. Like nasturtium. I don't really like to winter sow those because they don't like the roots disturbed. They germinate super quick. So a lot of these do germinate super fast as well. So if you see anything you have a question about, put it below. I absolutely love Silver Cup. That's one of my favorite annuals. Cups and Saucer, that is a gorgeous, huge vine. It takes a while for it to get going, so I probably will actually start this maybe around February-ish, and see how it tolerates kind of winter sowing at that point. I could start it in the house, maybe that would be a better option. Scabiosa takes a while to get going too, so that's one we could start indoors. It is about that time where I'm going to have to set up my grow lights and start my peppers, my eggplants, and then my tomatoes. So some of these flowers could be started along with the tomatoes. The Gomphrena is a good one to do when you're starting tomatoes, kind of the same timeline. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, remember, just put them below. Maybe I'll do a flower seed Q&A someday. But thank you for watching this entire video, because without me knowing someone might actually watch this video, I may not have done this project, and it's so desperately needed to be done. And now that I've organized my seeds, cool weather, warm weather, I know for certain I do not need to order any more flower seeds. And that's kind of sad, because I did have stuff picked out in my cart for a couple flower seed companies. But I'm going to just leave them in my cart, or I can just move them to my wish list, because obviously we do not need seeds. We have plenty to make a beautiful, gorgeous garden this year. All right, guys, thanks again for being here. I will talk to you soon.